everybody, and welcome to a brand new live where today I discuss some problems with conspiracy theories and why I think a lot of them just don't work. Now, conspiracy theories in and of themselves are not necessarily false. There's this premonition that somehow Um, yeah, I'm gonna just restart that. That's somehow because, it is called a conspiracy theory, that it has no merit, no nothing, that we should, okay, there we go, that we should not consider it to be any sort of legitimate. And that's pretty problematic considering there are some conspiracy theories that turned out to be correct, and that there's some, but there are ways to really think about it logically in general. So I'm going to go over just a few of the really easy ways to tell if conspiracy theory is mostly just stupid. So the first way is, what is the who is being affected, and who is really behind it. That's it. Who's behind it? This grand conspiracy, because it matters in the grand scheme of things. So if it turns out that there was a person making allegations, and those allegations say my enemy just so happens to be in a conspiracy to do bad things, well, I'm going to take that and I'm going to really think about it hard. Why is it that it's conveniently enough that the enemy, the person that that there is an individual that is disliked significantly, and they just so happen, it just miraculously and it just so happens that they are the ones who get in a lot of trouble. And I just think that's really interesting in general, that we have this situation on our hands where there are a lot of theories. I think the second way is we need to play Occam's razor, because a lot of theories, they rely on this notion that someone did something, and when we really step back and examine what it is, we find that there are a lot of holes in the story, a lot of situations where it just doesn't feel realistic. So now this I can't give an example. 9/11. A lot of people say that it was an inside job, and the further down you go, the more people you interview and get their opinions on, the more it becomes, it goes from being a theory that could be plausible, so you can understand where they're coming from, to there is no chance in hell this could have happened. I'm calling bullshit. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I've known people in real life who've said that the planes were remote control, and that the planes were remote control, that there were holograms, and it's like, this is 2001 we're talking about. Like, 2001. I think we would be using this technology more often if it was physically possible. And it's not. It's just not physically possible. So it's about looking and saying, okay, what is rational? What would be a logical conclusion? Because not all of these theories are completely bunk. And many of them, they manage to really destroy themselves because of how grandiose they are. It's rather insane. So because they're on this grand scale where it's, oh, everybody is part of this. You question whether or not this could have gone as long as it has. Because not everybody would be able to be a part of this giant conspiracy. Excuse me. They can't be just part of this giant conspiracy, figuring out all of this good stuff, like, knowing all that. So, I mean, if we look at 9/11, could there have been some conspiracy where the government deliberately didn't take action? That is a very good possibility. That what happened was not through necessarily a very malicious intent to deliberately go ahead and do it, but more out of malicious inaction by the government. That is much more likely. But then again, it's also more likely that the government just screwed up. Because a lot of these people don't even look at the, because they'll dismiss anything that, basically is against their theories. If they have a theory, they stick with it. And it doesn't matter if it makes logical sense or not. It doesn't matter if the points they're presenting are good points. What matters most is that they can point to someone they don't like and say, here, this person did bad thing. Which is pretty insane. Because there are ways to, because if we look at some of the conspiracy theories that are toned down, like, pretty logical, you know, you can find that there are some conspiracy theories that turn out to be correct. It's just, what is the outcome? I think that's the biggest thing we need to really ask ourselves. What is the outcome? Because if the outcome makes no sense, then there really isn't any reason for it to be happening. An example I could think of would be like the flat earth. Okay, so let's assume, for argument's sake, that the flat earthers are correct. Why would the government lie about the earth being flat? Like, I really can't think of any real good reason to lie. I mean, that would make absolutely no sense because a flat earth would be a lot easier to debunk. It would be a lot of work with almost no payoff. The payoff would be astronomically stupid. You convince people that there's the Earth's flat. You convince it's round. But what's the advantage of the Earth being round and everybody telling them versus the Earth actually being flat? Because it would be a lot easier to prove for a standard person. Alright, so let's see here. And it's ludicrous that we would have, like, it would just be really, really statistically impossible. So, yeah, there's just a few things I can think off the top of my head. Funny enough, I unfortunately know several people who are in conspiracy theories that they really can't hold up to any scrutiny whatsoever. It's more of a do the research yourself, which I find to be problematic in of itself. To say, oh, well, I know I'm right, you just do the research, and it's like, okay, but how do I know what research is correct? Because, like, if I just do the research, how do I know where the sources are? Because that doesn't tell me anything. The sources are saying, the sources are really just saying, like, they'll say, oh, follow the sources, and it's like, okay, but my sources are saying otherwise, and they're like, no, follow my sources, but they never give the sources. It's more of a, well, you have to believe me on this. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. To my response is, if you know what you're talking about, if you know what's going on, then clearly you can give me more information than just trust me. I'm intelligent. Because more of a, really? I thought that people had to graduate high school in order to be considered able to really master that stuff. But hey, many of these people, like, I swear to God, they did. They probably graduated high school. But I'm more concerned with the people who graduated college, because high school, especially if you're from the United States, high school, it just sucks. The school education has failed so many people. Because instead of thinking logically and critically about anything, because they don't think. Yeah, that's a really poor way to get people on your side, is by telling them, well, I know I'm right. Do the research. You'll figure it out. There we go. What else is there? Oh, yeah. So, to go into examples of ways to debunk these theories is look at QAnon. QAnon, and I'm not going to go into specifics on what they believe in, but if you know, you know, and I just don't want to get into, like, any of the details, but QAnon basically is saying that all of Hollywood is doing bad things. All of Hollywood and all of Democrats, they specify the Democrats, which I find to be very convenient for the Republicans. And because it's so convenient, I'm going to be more skeptical. This isn't to say that there isn't abuse on the part of Hollywood. There isn't some issue with Hollywood. This is saying that if there is an issue with these major corporations doing stuff, it's certainly not going to be limited to the liberal elite that fundamentally work in the area. This would be an issue amongst all the wealthy, all the people. And it doesn't make sense to pinpoint some people because and say, well, everybody is bad. And this is what a lot of these conspiracy theorists, they don't understand, is that by claiming that we have an issue with a majority of people doing these bad things, we have a majority of people really not exactly doing a great thing, we kind of ruin the idea that anybody could be doing a bad thing, because it's basically the boy who cried wolf. Excuse me. The people who are on the side of actually helping people, they're going to really sit back and think, okay, but you've been saying this for years. You've been saying these kinds of theories for years. What makes this different? Because I know there's some people who are actually blaming Betty White from being part of the same thing. QAnon went after Betty White. Poor Betty White. And it's like, okay, that seems kind of crazy, you know? Like, because they don't tell the difference between someone who just so happens to be in Hollywood, and it's like, do you think everybody knows? Like, that would be the dumbest thing ever, to have anybody connected with this stuff like, knowing what's going on, but not, like, revealing any of it. Because at some point, statistically speaking, you're going to have someone who's going to speak out, even if they're blackmailed. And enough people are going to come out and speak out against whatever's going on. The idea should be not focusing, like, okay, because I really am an idiot. If they're going to be this paranoid, why not just make it seem like it's only a handful of people? Like, we acknowledge that not everybody has this insider information, that this is a thing that happens. But because very few people actually know what's going on. So they have these parties, but some of them don't have anything going on. Like, that would make sense. Saying, hey, there's not, like, there are parties where nothing is going on. Nothing is really taking place. So it's not like, so there's this plausible deniability of saying, what do you mean there's abuse going on? I went there and nothing happened. And it gives more room for deniability, but it also increases if you only have a select amount of people. And even then, what are the odds that a bunch of the illegal activity is happening and the people themselves are really getting involved in this? Hold on. Edit scene. Cancel. Yeah. Like, what are the odds that these people are... There we go. What are the odds that, like, everybody's doing all these, like, illegal activities? What makes more sense in the grand scheme of things would be for, let's see. The most logical thing I could think of would be only having a few people participate in any of the illegal activity and having video, because it's more like hazing, you know? And then people would be afraid to speak out. Those who do come in but don't actually do any abuse, it's easy to blackmail them by saying, well, I have video of other people doing this stuff. I have other people having video. And even if you manage to go out there and say, hey, I'm not one of them, it would take a lot of evidence to support the contrary, and you cannot prove a negative. That's just physically impossible. Proving a negative is just not possible. So people would be stuck with this lingering doubt. And any accusations of, well, what QAnon are sporting is basically just a PR death sentence. It's impossible to really bounce back from those kinds of allegations. There would have to be a substantial amount of evidence to support the idea that the person was framed, in order for them to even have a chance of not being held like some evil bastard. And even then, that would be really difficult. Because they don't show mercy. In the public eye does not show mercy on anybody. Especially if there was any sort of reason to believe that that anybody hadn't been involved. The public is so unmerciful. So it would make sense just to have this idea being held above someone's head. Hey, I know things about you, or, hey, you may have not done anything, but we have video of other people doing stuff, and so, what are the odds that people are going to believe you in general? What are the odds that you're going to be believed? And that is 0? The answer is 0. The answer is just a resounding, there's no chance in hell you're managing to convince a bunch of people who are just so itching to really demonize another group of people that, no, we don't have any evidence. We have no supporting evidence on this. Please, just don't bother. Okay. And we have people like Betty White, who are basically the gems of Hollywood. They are some of the greatest people in she's one of the greatest people in Hollywood, or at least was. And, well, it's unfortunate that she passed away, but at the same time, we have people just eager to demonize everybody who is in the industry. And that to me is very, well, interesting, that we have this obsession with really just holding everybody in Hollywood to this high standard that is very impossible to prove. And Hollywood itself, in general, is a very liberal place, and for good reason. Hollywood really just started as a means for the minority to go off and make their own films and to really celebrate who they were. And now it's more of a view of Hollywood being very strict, because it's all about money and what's gonna make money and all that good stuff. So it's become more conservative over the years, or at least it hasn't got as liberal as it probably could have been if we hadn't had a giant situation where it's the Hays Code, things like that. We would probably be more what some people would consider woke. Funny enough, trust me, I'm very confident that if all of the woke people had their way, there would be a significant difference between films made now and films made, like, in the future. There would be just so much of a vast difference that it wouldn't even be funny. The amount of stuff that would be in the films would be astronomical. Because, of course, people... No, I didn't mean that. No. There we go. So, yeah. So, I think a lot of these theories, they're mostly against... it's a way of scaring people away from progressive ideas. It's a way of scaring people so that they feel like they have no other option than to really sit there and be paranoid. Be careful, you don't want your kids to get indoctrinated by the left. You don't want people to trick your kids into thinking they're trans. And that's basically all conspiracy theories are. They're a method to keep people afraid of everything that could possibly happen or will happen or could even theoretically happen. And frankly, I am surprised that... I'm going to say that. And in a way, I'm surprised that people are stupid. This stupid that they will jump on the bandwagon to fundamentally... They'll jump on this bandwagon just to make it seem like they have morals and really anything. Because it's easy to fall back on morals. It's easy to fall back on, I'm doing this because I find it immoral. It's harder to go and say, to substantiate those claims in any meaningful way. When you have to substantiate the claims, that becomes harder. overall. And a lot of these people, they do not want to have to, they don't want to be held accountable for their beliefs. It's a lot easier to just throw your hands in the air and say, look, these are based off morality. I believe this. Because if you're just claiming it as a belief, and you're doing it out of a moral fear, then it's a lot easier to get people on your side. People are more likely to listen, which shouldn't be the case. People shouldn't just be eager to listen because morality. That's a very poor reason for saying, hey, we should not do X. Which is why the conspiracy theories really exist. They're saying, hey, something happened that I didn't like, and I'm going to pin it on some group. And usually, a lot of the people who are very much against, and usually the people who are blamed for a majority of conspiracy theories, especially the dangerous ones, are typically minorities. It's easy to blame minorities for some insane situation. This is, oh god, this level. Help me. This. This level is challenging, but that's because I'm actually trying not to use this. This is easy. Yes. Okay, now I remember why I like the nighttime pool level. God, the nighttime pool level is so much better because you don't have this shit. Anyway, back to conspiracy theories. Most conspiracy theories do involve minorities in some way, shape, and or form, which is pretty funny. And the funny thing about a lot of conspiracy theories is that if they were toned down, many of the, especially right wing, there is a lot of conspiracy theories that, if toned down, would completely make sense in the grand scheme of things. What is one that would really make sense? Oh, ancient aliens. The idea that we have been visited by extraterrestrials. It's not as far-fetched as believed, but then it's the evidence. It's the evidence that doesn't make any fucking sense. To say, oh, well, we learned everything from extraterrestrials. Like, how else would we have gotten the technology to do all this? And it's like, I don't know. How the hell did we manage to figure out space technology when it's pretty obvious that, like, we weren't directly given that information from aliens? It would make sense to say, hey, we were inspired by aliens. There were a lot of things that aliens have really shown, and that's why people have, like, weird symbolic stuff. Knowing Better's video on Ancient Aliens does a really good point at highlighting the hypocrisy of it. I'm not quoting verbatim because I can't remember the exact quote, but it was, isn't it weird that we have all of these basic theories that explain why a bunch of brown people managed to get really good at everything, and isn't this kind of in a way to explain how brown people managed to be better than white people for a very long time? And I just found that rather interesting, because it really is more in line with, this paranoid belief. Wait, I'm gonna restart this level because I can't remember. Do I have that one yet? Perhaps unlock the store. Damn. Okay, I need that. This. Anyway, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that I'll actually just continue this later. Anyway, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that, if we really examined them, the thing that makes absolutely no sense is, what is the outcome? What is the benefit? I don't get it. I really don't. There are benefits and there's drawbacks and things that are positive, negative. Everything has its positive, negatives. Everything has this miracle of whatever the fuck is going on with these things. I don't get it. I don't get it. And frankly, some of these theories I really don't want to get. Anyway, this is where I'm going to wrap off. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, I do have a Patreon, link in the description. You can get this video early or watch on Twitch. I go live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10, and they really last as long as they can. So, participate in the streams, and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye!